Hey everyone, welcome to another video. If you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Irit and on my channel I share all my crochet adventures. And just a quick update because I have kids at home and yeah, they have demands. So I'll start with this little finished finished object, which makes me incredibly happy. So this is the Unity sweater from Maya Luna Corazon, and I've showed you the process. I was waiting for, I needed two skeins of the Phildar jewel spun, and I actually have a little bit left over. Probably have, I would say, less than 50 grams left over. Every skein is 200 grams, so I used probably close to 350, 360, 70, somewhere there for the sweater. It is kind of cropped till here, just the standing makes the video go wonky. So yeah, but I really love how it turned out, and I really feel like this pattern, the way it is written, first of all, it really makes me want to try more of her designs. And it's just like, you know, she used two strands of like fingering weight yarn. I didn't have that. I just wanted to use, I got the jewel spun yarn. I was like madly in love with it. I just decided to use it. My gauge doesn't match hers. Actually the same, I used the same hook size that she did, but the gauge is completely off. I had to change the basically the gauge, but the way that the pattern is written, I felt it was very easy for me to pretty much change everything, because she explains so well how many stitches you need for the lace pattern here, kind of a lacy pattern, a little bit open, and you know how to get from the parts that are just a regular stitch, this is just a double crochet, how to get from them to the lace patterns. Her design has, as I said, different gauge, different yarn. The sleeves are really big, and I didn't want to do that. I think it looks amazing on her, but on me, I just don't think it looks as good. And also it takes more yarn, and also you really can't then put a coat, like any of my coats, on top of the sweater. And so I felt it's just a little bit less versatile. And so I decided to do the sleeves much more fitted. I also changed the ribbing here. The ribbing at the bottom here, it's a ribbing that is very nice to make, but the result is more chunky. It's, you know, the front post, back post double crochets, which, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it just because it's bulky. I don't mind it so much at the bottom of the sweater, but I tried to do it for the wrists and it was just a bit more bulky. As I said, I used just, I think this is DK weight yarn, and she uses two strands of fingering. So I made a lot of changes, but I felt it was very easy to do them and still keep kind of the same look of the sweater. I loved the pattern, the stitch here, and just like the result is great. Even the seaming, I did them using a needle, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but now I feel like I'm getting more and more comfortable with it, and that makes things much easier, that process more enjoyable. And I was kind of scared of it because I thought, okay, I don't really like garments that have, you know, 4 pieces, like 2 sleeves, front and back, and then you have to stitch everything together because you get like bulky seams and everything. But yeah, I don't know, I made it work, and I'm really happy with how it looks. So really happy with that. Very motivated to try another one. This came together really fast, and I'm just like in love with this yarn, with the look of it. It just makes it colorful but so easy, and the fact that you have a skein of like 200 grams and I think around 500 meters means that I get like all these colors, but I barely had any, you know, loose ends to stitch at the end. And yeah, it just made the whole thing really lovely. And I'm looking forward to trying one of her patterns. I don't know if I'll buy the same yarn, or maybe they don't have a lot of colorways from this yarn that, sorry about my hair, it's a mess today. They don't have a lot of colorways that I am really loving. This one I love. It's called Daybreak, I want to say Delta. And then there's another one that I really like that just, I feel like is a little bit more muted maybe, but still has like turquoise and pink. I'm not sure, I might just order it. But yeah, I just really fell in love with this kind of yarn for a sweater, because it gives me the result that I love, that kind of richness, but without having to change a lot of skeins or work with multiple skeins. Everything. Really enjoyed this. Another thing from Maya Luna is this. So this is actually the I mean, aren't these colors? It's just like, I'm obsessed. This is like a muted rainbow, slightly muted rainbow, and I love it. So the original pattern, it's called the Eliza Tunic, I want to say, again from Maya Luna Corazon. It is for a tunic, and basically you make kind of 4 panels with this stitch repeat, which again, really like her choice of stitches. It's really fun, easy to make, but still interesting to look at. So that's the pattern, and I kind of messed it up a little bit on the gauge, and I made mine a bit too big to be a part of the tunic. And then as I was working on it, I also thought that I'm not sure that this style of tunic would be something I would really use in my wardrobe. It's just like a little bit too chunky, I feel. Maybe as like a cropped sweater it would just work better, just for my style and body structure. I'm kind of like pear-shaped, and so I don't mind wearing more like bulky clothes above the waist, but below the waist it's just like, yeah, not always works for me. So anyway, I really enjoyed working with this yarn, with these colors, but I wasn't sure that I wanted to do the tunic thing, so I just made the 1 panel and used an entire skein of the Katya paint cakes. I don't remember, the colors just have like numbers, no names. But then I decided, okay, that maybe I should just make it into a scarf, and I didn't want to add more yarn, and this is like 1 cake. And for an open scarf, first of all, I don't really like those because it's just like, yeah, I don't. I'm an infinity scarf type of gal since that thing came into my life. And yeah, so then it was like, okay, then how do I shape it? Because it has a little bit, the length is just like a little bit in between. So it's not short enough that it would just be perfect as like 1 round, but it's not big enough to easily contain like 2 rounds. I can do it, but it's very tight and I don't really like it. So it's a little bit of an in-between situation right now, but I guess I tried to like stitch it in this, you know, kind of headband type of way. So it's not really perfect, but I do really love the colors. It just makes me so happy. Also seeing it on screen just like really makes me happy. So I don't know, maybe I just need to figure out something, maybe put like a button or something like here so I can just close it. That could work. Some sort of, yeah, like a nice big button to close it here, because I do really love the colors, and it'll probably work a lot better for my wardrobe than the tunic. And it's, you know, very useful to have a scarf here in Austria where I am, especially now where it's winter. Aren't these colors gorgeous? Don't know, have to think how I can do this. But yeah, really enjoyed making this. It turned out to be something a bit different. Okay, so a little bit of a Cal update. If you don't know, I'm going to do a crochet along next year, so in January. And I already have, the pattern is almost finished, like, you know, written, but I'm working on all kinds of samples so I can show you a few variations. I'll probably make a few more sweaters, but I don't know if it'll be like in time, you know, for the Cal or as the Cal is going on. For sure I'll make another version besides the 4 that I've already made. But yeah, the one I will definitely be making is using this yarn. This is Cookie from Hobie, and it's probably a little bit thinner than I would have liked, just because it means it'll just take me longer, but I do like the result of not like super chunky yarn. It's just, I feel like it feels better, especially when you're using acrylic, and it looks better because it's not so chunky, but that's a personal preference. So one of the things that I want to do for you, although you should also do this yourself, and I highly recommend that you do this yourself, because everyone crochets differently, and I really have no idea if I'm like a tight crocheter. I guess I must be, because I always need like a bigger hook than recommended in most of the patterns that I make. But yeah, anyway, so I'm just making a nice size sample to see, because I will be using, or we will be using, 2 different hook sizes. One for the ribbing, a smaller size, and then for the body of the sweater, a larger size hook. This has a lot of advantages, and we can talk about it more, but I will probably do a video before we start the Cal just on how to prepare and do a swatch. I do recommend it because then you can really see how this particular stitch behaves with different hook sizes. And just to give you an example, I wasn't sure myself, I also have to try and see. So the ribbing is made with a 375mm hook, and it actually, I made other samples with other yarns and it seemed to work for all 3. Talk about these 2 in a second. This is the Cookie yarn, which I will be making my sweater from. Not this colorway, that's way too boring for me. But it is really nice to work with, and I really like the color changes. They're not as colorful as this one, but it's still okay. I love color, as you can see. So I really didn't know how this was going to behave. So the ribbing was good with a 375mm, and then I started the stitch pattern with a 5mm hook. That was a little bit too tight. Then I switched to 6, and that was just a tad too open for me. But obviously it has a much nicer drape when you make it more open. You can decide for yourself. And then I switched to a 5.5mm, and that seemed to be the, you know, the perfect Goldilocks situation. So I will be using a 5.5mm hook. I don't know why I'm struggling with that today, because in my watercolor videos I talk about milliliters, so I guess my brain is mush. And I did take photos with the needle, with the hook sizes, so that I don't forget. But the last one I also just tied it like 5 knots gap, another knot. Hopefully that'll remind me that it's a 5.5mm hook. But yeah, that is how it's looking. This is how the stitch looks. I love the look of it and the texture. And then the ribbing, you can decide. I am probably gonna go for a half double crochet ribbing because I like the look and it goes really fast. Yeah, so that's also what I made here. That's probably what I'll choose, but you can also do a single crochet ribbing, slip stitch ribbing, your choice. I'll try to do samples and show you, but yeah. So this is how my sample is looking with cookie yarn. And then I tried with Lion Brand's Ferris wheel. I made another one. So this one is a little bit, I feel it's a little bit more chunky than the cookie one. But yeah, so the ribbing is again the same size. And I really like, again, the color transitions of this yarn. And I did this with, seems to be a 6 millimeter hook. And I think it looks good. Yeah, it's not very drapey. But if you're working with acrylic yarn, I feel like that's kind of, you have to live with that. By the way, I have a question. If you know about blocking acrylic yarn, like, does it do anything? Should one block sweaters with acrylic yarn? I know you can't really heat it too much, but how does it work? I've only done that with cotton, and it was very straightforward. You kind of just, you know, sculpt the sweater into the measurements you want it to be. But I don't know how acrylic behaves. So if you have like a quick reference or word of wisdom to share, I would really appreciate it. I thought about trying to block this, you know, especially with the lacy pattern, also here in the sleeve. But I don't know if it's gonna do anything with acrylic. Like, I don't know. Yeah, so this was the sample with Ferris wheel for the cowl. And then I also did one because one viewer asked about this yarn, the jewel spun, for the cowl. And while I really, really love this, I decided not to go with it just because I think it's a little bit harder to get than these two options. And also I've heard that, I talked about it in the previous video, there's another yarn that is very, very similar to these two, which is widely available, I think from Red Heart, in the US. So I just want to make a choice that anyone can get their hands on. And while I love, love, love this yarn, that's why I didn't make the cut for this particular cowl, but of course you can use it. And because I had a little bit left over from the sweater, I did make also a swatch. And again, I used the 375. This one is a little bit thinner. I used the 375 millimeter for the ribbing. It worked fine. You could probably go down even to 3.5 and make it a bit tighter if you really like kind of that tight ribbing. Just to, you know, have more definition or shaping in your cuffs and bottom of the sweater and neckline if you wish. And then for the stitch itself, what did I use? I think I took a picture of it. I'm not sure. I think it was a 5.5. I'm not sure, but this is how it looks with this stitch pattern. And really, really pretty. I really love the texture of this. So yeah, I'm just trying to make some swatches to give you some, you know, specific recommendations, but every crocheter crochets differently, and so you shouldn't really take my word for it, but try it yourself. But I'll do a video and we can do a swatch together, and I really, really recommend to do this so you can feel comfortable with the stitch, how it works. Not that it's complicated, but you know, it's always nice to start a sweater when you're kind of feeling good that you have the skills to do it and that you're familiar with your tools, with your yarn, with your hook size, all those things. And yeah, my sweater. Okay, so this is another, I'm a little bit stuck with this sweater. I love how the body looks. I stitched it. I'm kind of okay with the whole stitching. On the sides, it looks really, really nice. It's not supposed to match, so that was kind of intentional. But really, really love how the side seams are looking. And this was basically the first thing I've knitted, like the back piece, the first thing, or this whole thing, first thing I've knitted in 10 years. And I turned, my knit stitches were turned. I kind of discovered it and fixed it midway through one of the front panels. So there's a lot of mistakes here, but because of the color work, I don't think it's really noticeable, so I'm okay with it. The problems kind of start with the sleeve. So I started here a sleeve using 3 DK weight strands like I used here, but it's just a bit annoying, and I feel like it's unnecessary because I don't want to do the color work on the sleeves. And so I decided, okay, maybe instead of the 3 DK weight, I will just use a more like chunky yarn that I have on hand. And so I decided to go with Chunky Monkey, which is the same brand as I used here. I mean, it's not the same brand, it's the same manufacturer. Here I used DK weight acrylic yarn called Color Crafter from Scheepjes, and here I used the Chunky Monkey, which is yeah, it's kind of a thick 4-weight yarn, or maybe even a 5-weight. I think it's classified as a 4-weight, but it is chunky. Maybe it's 5-weight, because 5-weight is chunky, right? Anyway, I'm not sure, but it's Chunky Monkey. And again, I don't know why I turned my stitches, but look, you can see here they are turned, and then here I kind of corrected it. I have some sort of block in my brain that makes me forget how to properly do a knit stitch if I leave it for too long. I don't know what my issue is, but yeah, it's a recurring mistake. Anyway, I am happy with the decision. I did need slightly like a 7mm knitting needles for this, while this one I did with an 8, just because it was a bit too open with an 8. I'm okay with that. I also did, her instructions are to do the sleeves separately, and I decided I just want to pick up the stitches and just do the decreases as I go, which just means I have to pay a bit more attention. I don't know, maybe I'll just scrap that and do what she does, but using Chunky Monkey and not the 3 DK weight. My problem is kind of the color. I love this color. I'm not sure I'm loving it together. They do kind of match, because I have one of the strands that I used here is pretty much this color, but I really think that I'm more into using like a dark, bright pink for the sleeves. I think that's just what I want. And so I might need to order a color from Chunky Monkey, because I only have like a couple of skeins and they don't match. So yeah, a little bit stuck on this. I'm thinking I have this card from Chunky Monkey, which is very handy, even though I love this yarn, but first of all, it does split and it's just like a little bit too heavy for garments. But I think in this case, it's pretty heavy already, and maybe just for the sleeves, it's not such a big deal. And also I'm knitting this, so it is lighter than a crocheted sweater with this yarn. I have done that, and for me it's just a bit too heavy. But yeah, so I'm thinking maybe about this color, this pink right here, this one. I think that would be a nice fit to go with this. I think probably pink. I could pull out some other colors from this. Obviously it's very colorful, but yeah, I don't know. I'm leaning towards that pink. It doesn't have really much deeper colors in it. It's mostly kind of light. Maybe that blue is a little bit deeper. But yeah, just looking at them, I'm just thinking I would like the sleeves to have a deeper color. So something like this, as similar as I can get to this, which is what I did here. I used 2 strands of this color and a colorful one, which those of you that answered my question, which colors to use, so some of you agreed, or I think most of you agreed, that this would be like a nice choice to use for the sleeves together with this color. But yeah, I'm not feeling it, and I'm just not sure I want to do this with more color. I think I should go with the one color. So yeah, that's a lot of talking about this sweater, but I do like how it's looking. It's just a bit, I love the color work, and I just think having one color that is a bit deeper for the ribbing in the neck and the sleeves will just still keep it not completely circusy. I don't know. I love this. This makes me super, super happy. So I do like the effect. But yeah, I'm just not there yet. So I might have to order a couple more of the Chunky Monkey. I'm not sure. On the other hand, maybe I should just use what I have. I do have probably enough of this color. So I could use just 3 strands of this to make the sleeve. I don't know. And then on the other hand, I'm thinking maybe I should just crochet the sleeve and just kind of be done with it, because I just want this project now to be done, and crocheting is a lot easier for me and faster. So yeah, maybe just use what I also don't like with knitting with 3 strands is that they keep twisting on me. Like all the time they twist, and every couple of rows I have to untangle them. And yeah, I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or it's just the process, but it's another thing that is annoying for me. And if I don't need that color effect, I mean, here it's like, it's kind of the only way to get this is to use 3 strands. And because I keep changing them, then at least, you know, I cut the yarn and it's like 1 strand less to deal with for a certain amount of time. Yeah, but if I'm just going to use 1 color, I don't know. But I really want to finish this sweater. So yeah, I don't know what I should give up on. Knitting the sleeves, the 3 strands, ordering new colors. Maybe I should just do the sleeves separately like the pattern suggests, but it's just so much nicer to just not have to stitch them, especially since it is quite chunky as it is. So that really appeals to me, the not having to add another stitch. Yeah, of course I could also pick up with crochet very easily. I could do that, so it doesn't have to be a separate piece if I decide to crochet it. Maybe I should try it here. I'll just take out what I've done already here and maybe try one side with maybe like crocheting a double strand of this color, which right now is the one I'm most leaning towards. See how that works. But yeah, all kinds of things to consider and try. I think that's it for today. Thank you for joining me. Again, super happy about this. I will try to link to this if I remember, but if I forget, it's the Unity sweater from Maya Luna Corazon. She has Ravelry, probably more places, like her own website, I'm not sure, but I think I got this on Ravelry. She has like one with a yoke that I'm considering doing in the round. I wonder, because I really enjoyed the way she wrote this pattern, made it very easy to customize and adjust. I'm thinking maybe I should try one of her patterns for yoke, but like a top-down sweater. I'll probably try another one of her patterns very soon, because it was a very enjoyable process. Talked about it a lot. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in another video very soon. Take care. Bye bye.